AITA for pimping out my husband to the women he cheats on me with? It sounds insane, I know. When I step back and think about what I've done over the past couple of years, even I can't believe it sometimes. But let me explain how I ended up in this bizarre situation. Maybe then, you'll understand why I did what I did. I'm Claire, 35F, and I've been married to John, 38M, for 10 years. We were the perfect couple, or so I thought. We met through mutual friends, and John swept me off my feet with his charm and ambition. He worked hard, built a successful career in real estate, and provided us with a beautiful home and a comfortable life. I quit my job shortly after we got married, at his suggestion. You don't need to work, he'd said. Focus on the house, and maybe we can start a family soon. At the time, it felt like a dream come true. I had always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Fast forward a few years, and the dream turned into a nightmare. It started with small, suspicious signs. John would come home late from work meetings, smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. He began guarding his phone like it was the nuclear codes, taking it with him everywhere, even the bathroom. At first, I told myself I was imagining things. John had always been so attentive and loving. Why would he cheat? But one day, I couldn't ignore my gut feeling anymore. I went through his phone while he was in the shower. What I found shattered me. There were texts with multiple women, flirty messages, dinner plans, even photos that made my stomach churn. He wasn't just cheating, he was building little relationships with these women, lying to them the same way he lied to me. I confronted him that night. He didn't deny it. Instead, he shrugged and said, "Claire, you're overreacting. These other women mean nothing. It's just fun." His casual dismissal of my feelings was the final blow. I felt like a fool, like everything I'd built my life around was a lie. But I also felt stuck. I didn't have a job, savings, or any way to support myself. John controlled our finances completely, and the idea of leaving him felt impossible. Every time I thought about divorce, the same questions haunted me. Where would I go? How would I survive? So, I stayed. For a while, I tried to ignore his affairs, hoping he'd eventually change. But things only got worse. He stopped even pretending to hide his behavior. He'd go out for hours without telling me where he was, and when I asked, he'd roll his eyes and call me needy. The breaking point came one night when he didn't come home at all. I spent the entire night pacing the living room, feeling a mix of rage and despair. By the time he walked through the door the next morning, looking disheveled and unapologetic, something inside me snapped. At first, I didn't know what to do. All I knew was that I couldn't keep living like this. I needed to find a way out, but I didn't have the resources to leave. Then, a thought crossed my mind: if he's going to cheat, why shouldn't I benefit from it? The idea started as a joke in my head, a way to cope with my anger. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. If John was going to continue disrespecting me, why not use his own behavior to secure my future? It started small. The next time he mentioned going out with one of his friends, I didn't fight him on it. Instead, I encouraged him. "You should go," I said sweetly. "You deserve a break." He looked surprised but pleased. For the first time in years, I felt like I had some control. As John's affairs continued, I decided to push things further. I found out the names of some of the women he was seeing, thanks to his terrible habit of leaving receipts and credit card statements lying around. One day, I reached out to one of them. Let's call her Lisa. She was young, pretty, and seemed completely infatuated with John. I pretended to be friendly, telling her that I knew all about their relationship and that I wanted to help. At first, Lisa was defensive. She thought I was going to tell her to back off, but instead, I said, "Look, I know John likes to spoil you. But those gifts come out of our shared account. If you want to keep seeing him, I think it's only fair that I get a cut. Let's say 50% of whatever he spends on you." To my surprise, Lisa agreed. Once I saw how easily Lisa had gone along with it, I started reaching out to the other women John was seeing. The responses were almost comical. They were all so smitten with him that they didn't mind sharing the perks with me. "I guess it's only fair," one of them said. "You are his wife, after all." I kept things professional, setting clear terms. Whatever John spent on them, whether it was money, gifts, or fancy dinners, they would reimburse me for half. In exchange, I promised to keep supporting their relationships with him. Meanwhile, I started subtly asking John for more money. I'd tell him I needed cash for household expenses or self-care. He was so distracted by his double life that he barely noticed how much I was siphoning away. Every penny I received from him and the women went straight into a secret bank account. Over time, the balance grew. With each deposit, I felt a little more empowered. I also began quietly preparing for my exit. I researched lawyers, found a part-time remote job to build my resume, and started making connections outside of my marriage. For the first time in years, I felt like I was taking control of my life. Things came to a head about a year later. By that time, my escape fund was large enough to support me for at least a year on my own. I knew it was time to leave, but I wanted to go out on my terms. I decided to file for divorce without telling John. When he came home one evening, I was sitting at the dining table with the papers in front of me. "What's this?" he asked, his tone sharp. "Divorce papers," I said calmly. "I've had enough, John. I'm done." He laughed, clearly not taking me seriously. "You can't leave. You wouldn't last a week without me." That's when I revealed everything, the secret account, the money I'd saved, and how I'd been taking a cut from his affairs. His face turned red with rage. "You used me," he shouted. I stared at him, unflinching. "No, John. You used me. I just leveled the playing field. The divorce is ongoing, and John is doing everything he can to make it messy. He's furious, not just because I left but because I turned his own behavior against him. Some of my friends think I'm brilliant for what I did. You played the long game and won," one of them said. Others, though, think I stooped to his level. Honestly, I don't know if what I did was right. But I do know that I'm finally free, and that's worth everything. It's been a few months since I shared my story, and a lot has happened since then. I wasn't expecting so much feedback. Some of you called me a genius, others thought I was just as bad as John. Either way, your comments made me think a lot about my choices, and I wanted to update you on where things stand now. First, the divorce. Predictably, John did not take it well. After I handed him the papers and revealed how I had been building my escape fund, he went into full damage control mode. He tried to spin the situation as if I had somehow wronged him, conveniently ignoring the years of lies and infidelity that got us here in the first place. He called me manipulative and vindictive, and even tried to claim that I had stolen money from him. Thankfully, my lawyer was prepared for this. Every cent I took from our shared account was documented, and I had proof of all the reimbursements from his side affairs. Still, the legal battle hasn't been easy. John has been dragging out the proceedings, throwing every roadblock he can think of. He's refusing to settle amicably and insists on fighting over assets, even though I've asked for nothing more than what I'm entitled to. It's exhausting, but I'm holding my ground. Here's where things get interesting. A few of the women John was seeing found out about each other, and about the deal I had with all of them. Apparently, John wasn't as smooth as he thought, and his lies started unraveling. Lisa, the first woman I contacted, reached out to me again, furious. "You used me just like he did," she said. I told her the truth, that I had no sympathy for anyone willing to sleep with a married man, especially when they knew about his wife. Not surprisingly, none of the women are speaking to John anymore. His reputation has taken a hit, both personally and professionally. Word has gotten out in his social circles, and people are starting to see him for who he really is. Now for the good part, my life after John. Thanks to my secret savings, I've been able to move out and start fresh. I found a cozy apartment in a different part of town and started working full-time. The job isn't glamorous, but it pays the bills and gives me a sense of independence I haven't felt in years. I've also reconnected with old friends and even made a few new ones. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm living for myself instead of being trapped in someone else's shadow. One unexpected perk? I've started dating again. I wasn't planning to jump back into the dating pool so soon, but I met someone who's been kind, respectful, and patient. He knows about my past, and instead of judging me, he admires my resilience. It's a breath of fresh air. I've spent a lot of time reflecting on the decisions I made and whether they were justified. Did I stoop to John's level? Maybe. But at the time, I felt like I had no other options. I was trapped in a marriage with a man who didn't respect me, and I had to find a way to survive. Would I do it again? Honestly, I don't know. What I do know is that I'm finally free, and I don't regret standing up for myself. Being free from John has been the most liberating experience of my life. For years, I felt like I was living in a cage, trapped by his lies and my own fear of the unknown. Now, I wake up every day knowing that my choices are my own. After moving into my new apartment, I took some time to reflect on what I wanted my life to look like moving forward. I had spent so long catering to John's needs and trying to maintain the facade of a perfect marriage that I had completely lost sight of who I was. The first step was figuring out what truly made me happy. I picked up hobbies I hadn't touched in years, painting, running, even learning to cook new dishes. I began to appreciate the small moments of peace in my day, sipping coffee in the morning, decorating my new space, and just enjoying my own company. The biggest challenge was rebuilding my self-esteem. For years, I had internalized John's dismissive comments and his blatant disregard for my feelings. His cheating made me feel like I wasn't enough, and even though I knew logically that his actions were a reflection of him, not me, it was hard to shake that sense of inadequacy. Therapy has been a game changer. My therapist has helped me unpack the emotional toll of the marriage and the choices I made to survive it. She's helped me see that while my actions weren't conventional, they came from a place of desperation and resilience. "I'm proud of you for taking control of your life," she told me during one session. "It wasn't an easy road, but you found your way out. That takes strength." For the first time in years, I feel like I'm beginning to truly value myself again. Of course, not everyone sees it that way. Some people in my social circle have judged me harshly for what I did, especially when the full story started to circulate. "I can't believe you took money from those women," one former friend said. "That's just as bad as what John did." I've thought about this a lot. Was it wrong to take advantage of the situation? Maybe. But when I think about how trapped I felt, how powerless, I don't regret finding a way to regain control. I didn't hurt anyone who wasn't already complicit in hurting me. On the flip side, I've also received an outpouring of support from unexpected places. Women who've been through similar experiences have reached out to share their own stories, and it's made me realize just how common it is to feel stuck in a toxic relationship with no clear way out. The divorce proceedings are still dragging on, thanks to John's refusal to cooperate. He's furious that I outmaneuvered him and has been trying every tactic he can think of to make my life difficult. He's even gone so far as to accuse me of fraud, claiming I stole money from him. Thankfully, I've documented everything. Every transfer, every reimbursement from the women he cheated with, and every expense I covered during our marriage is accounted for. My lawyer is confident that his accusations won't hold up in court, but dealing with his pettiness is exhausting. Despite the frustration, I take comfort in knowing that his antics are a sign of his powerlessness. For years, he controlled every aspect of my life. Now, he's scrambling to regain that control and failing miserably. While the divorce drama continues, I've been focusing on building the life I want. I recently accepted a full-time job at a marketing agency, something I never thought I'd do after years of being out of the workforce. The adjustment has been challenging, but it's also incredibly rewarding. I've also started dating again. At first, I was hesitant. I didn't know if I was ready to trust someone after everything I'd been through. But then I met Ethan. Ethan is nothing like John. He's kind, attentive, and, most importantly, honest. From the beginning, he made it clear that he respected my boundaries and wanted to build a relationship based on mutual trust. It's still early days, but being with him has reminded me that love doesn't have to be complicated or painful. Looking back, I've learned so much from this experience. The most important lesson is that self-worth isn't something someone else can give you, it's something you have to find within yourself. For years, I let John's behavior define how I saw myself. I thought that because he cheated, I must not be good enough. Now, I see that his actions had nothing to do with my value and everything to do with his own flaws. I've also learned the importance of independence. One of the reasons I felt so trapped was because I didn't have the resources to leave. Building my escape fund gave me the freedom to make choices for myself, and I'll never let myself be in a position where I rely on someone else so completely again. Life isn't perfect, but it's mine. I wake up every day grateful for the chance to start over, to build something better for myself. The scars from my marriage are still there, but they've made me stronger, more self-aware, and more determined to live authentically. John can continue to be bitter and petty, but I'm done letting his actions dictate my happiness. I've moved on, and for the first time in a long time, I feel truly free. As for whether I'm the Aholy? Maybe some people will always think so. But in my heart, I know I did what I had to do to survive, and that's something I'll never apologize for.